Good morning. My name is Shawn Pritchett. I am the Director of Finance for the City of Sioux Falls. And the reason I'm here talking today is in regard to the city's property tax refund program for low-income elderly and seniors. This is an opportune time of year to have discussions about this for several reasons. One of those reasons is this is the time of year that the mayor and the city council participate as part of the equalization hearings. This is a time where people who may have an issue with the assessment of their value of their home bring that forward for consideration. But ultimately, the city and its participation, it partners as part of this participation in this project, but the city's ability to control those assessments is minimal. And for that reason, one of the things that our council did last year is they supplemented the budget and they passed an ordinance that created this property tax municipal refund program for low-income elderly and the disabled. Knowing that, hearing the stories about people who feel burdened by their taxes, while the city has minimal control, the one thing we do have control over is the municipal taxes that are paid as our part of the property taxes. So just so everybody's aware, there are various entities that collect and receive property taxes. The county receives a portion, the school district receives a portion, and the city receives a portion as well. And so the part that we're talking about specifically is the part that the city received. So with the passing of that program ordinance last year and development of that program, the administration worked with council staff, we worked with the two counties, and we developed this program of being able to refund these municipal taxes to people who may be on fixed incomes. To make it simple for the public to utilize, we didn't create a whole new application that somebody would have to go through to be able to receive this refund. What we did is we piggybacked on an existing program that is a statewide program, but it's administered through the county treasurer's office. So if you're a resident of the city of Sioux Falls, you would go to Minnehaha County Treasurer's Office. If you're in Minnehaha County, if you're in Lincoln County, you would go to the Lincoln County Treasurer's Office. That program that's administered by the counties is called the Assessment Freeze Program for Elderly and Disabled. That program has existed for quite some time, and what it does is it freezes the assessment on your home, but you do have to apply for it every year. And so when we developed our program from the city of Sioux Falls, what we said is, okay, anybody who qualifies for that program here in the city of Sioux Falls will automatically qualify for a refund from the city of Sioux Falls of their municipal portion of their taxes up to $500 each year. And so we're actually in the process of issuing those refunds. At the end of this week, we will cut the checks that will be sent to the eligible individuals who applied through the county's program. And then we're deemed eligible for our refund program as well. And so this year, we are benefiting, there's about 400 households between the two counties within the city of Sioux Falls that are being assisted through this program. That's about a 15% increase from what we experienced last year. So there is some increased utilization of this program. And the average check that we issued was about $325 to those individuals that qualified. Now, what does it take to qualify through this program? Obviously, you do have to be a low-income individual, and you have to be over the age of 65, or you have to be deemed a disabled individual via the Social Security offices. With that, you can then apply through the county. There's an application that you can utilize that's available through the county treasurer's office. It's also available on our website. We have a specific website regarding our refund program. It's siouxfalls.org prop tax refund. You can go there. We do have a link to the application. You fill out the application and then you bring that into the county to be before April 1st of each year. And so that's another reason why we wanted to have this awareness brought up forward today, is because that deadline is looming. You do have to apply by April 1 with the county to be eligible for that assessment freeze. And then what happens after that is those that were qualified within the city of Sioux Falls, the counties automatically send us the data of everybody that was deemed eligible through that assessment freeze program. They tell us how much they're expected to pay for the municipal property tax, and then we cut the checks the following year. So if you apply by April 1 this year, you could and are deemed eligible, you could automatically receive a refund next year, and you don't have to do anything additional. We receive all the information from the county. We do have one additional requirement that is not a requirement of the county or state program, and that is that you do have to be current on your property taxes. So we are not going to issue a refund if you haven't paid your property taxes. And so this year we had about 12 people, 12 households that we went through and researched and found that they were not current on their taxes. We are required to issue you a letter, give you the opportunity to cure that. So we send those letters out in January of each year. We had about 12 that we sent out, and 2 took that opportunity to cure it within 30 days and were deemed eligible again for the city's refund. I think that the main thing we wanted to get out today is making sure that people were aware that the April 1 deadline is coming up to apply through the Treasurer's Office for that assessment freeze. And if you do that, then you could be potentially eligible for a refund next year. Everybody that's getting a refund this year, the ones that we will be issuing next week, those were all individuals that applied by the April 1 deadline of last year. So it's a great program for people who might feel the strain of being on a fixed income. It is targeted assistance to those who need it the most. It is a way that the city has brought forward to assist those individuals with their property tax and making sure that they can stay in their homes. So with that, I am happy to answer any questions you might have. If there are no questions, we do have one question. The question was, the council approved it last year. This is the first year we issued checks. No, this is the second year we issued checks. So we approved the program in February, but it was done in time in order to be able to implement the program last year. So we knew the program was coming. It took a while to develop the systems and the mechanisms to be able to do it. And then they supplemented the budget. I believe in February of last year, we implemented the ordinance, and then we're able to cut the checks last year for the refunds as well. Last year, I don't recall the supplement. I might have been about 200,000, I believe, was a supplement, but our actual refunds that we issued based on people who were eligible was 125,000. This year, we're issuing checks in the amount of about 140,000. I do not know the actual max, but there would be a maximum at some point, because in order to qualify for the assessment freeze for the elderly and disabled, your market value of your home cannot exceed $317,000. And based on some legislation that was passed last year, that used to be like a set amount. They did increase it in the legislature last year, and then I think it's also indexed to CPI. So it goes up every single year automatically. 317,000. 700 to be exact. Any other questions? All right. Well, we'll bring on our next individual to talk about flooding.
Morning, everyone. Albert Schmidt, Sioux Falls. I'm an urban planner with the city. I help to kind of regulate our floodplain and toilet program. So today we want to talk a minute about flood insurance. It's spring, the waters are here, so this is a good opportune moment to kind of help people educate again about what flood insurance is, what it isn't, where you can get it, when you can get it. So that's kind of what we want to talk about today. Again, we're receiving warmer temperatures. We hope that we don't melt too fast, but that's going on. So what we need people to know is, if they want to get flood insurance, so what's the steps, who do they contact, and that kind of thing. So as we look forward this year, we're just bringing this up as an annual educational piece. We're not worried about flooding overly compared to any other year. The National Weather Service's current forecast has us at or below our normal rate of flood risk. So we're not overly worried at all. This isn't we're here to tell you to worry. We're just here to educate and make sure that people know what they can get and can't get. So if you have questions on flood insurance overall, the main thing you need to know is that anybody is eligible for flood insurance, regardless if you're in or not in a floodplain, that you can get that side of it. We don't know the rates. We don't set that. That's all set from the private side. So anybody who has specific questions about flood insurance should reach out to their insurance agent to talk about acquiring that flood insurance and what those rates would be and such. There's private and there's FEMA flood insurance. Most of the time, the FEMA is the one you're going to get. Now this year, with education side of it, there's a lot of things that we want to talk about to people. And again, making sure, first and foremost, that everybody can get flood insurance is one of the things that we hear the most often, that hey, I'm not eligible because I'm in. Yes, you are. So you can get it. You can talk to people and you can get that in there. With flood insurance, it's different than homeowners insurance, so they cover different things. So that's an important aspect to look at and talk to people about what you want to get. And then with that flood insurance side and the educational piece, we also send out information to people just so they could be aware on other means, such as utility bills on an annual basis. We send out those so that they can be brought aware that they can reach out to us, ask us questions. Some of the things that we can answer on that side are you considered in by the state of Sioux Falls in a floodplain? What's the flood depth that you could expect during a flood? And other flood insurance kind of handouts, questions, and things like that we have available to people. And we hand those out on an annual basis to all of our utility customers, either through a physical mail or a digital coupon, depending on how they receive their bill. In addition to that, we also send some annual notices out to other properties that are more at risk to help them become aware of what options they have to contact us so that we can help educate them on what risks are associated with their specific property. One of the reasons why floodplain insurance is important is, again, it's not always covered by homeowners insurance. Typically, it's not. And that 40% of all flood insurance claims that we see on an annual basis typically occur outside what you call the high-risk areas for flood insurance. So it's important for everybody to consider it. I'm not saying it's right for everybody, but it's an important thing to consider and think about, especially considering if you want or need to make a claim on flood insurance in a year, your policy has to be effective 30 days prior to that event happening. So it's an important thing to think about, and this is that perfect time of year. That's hence we're in front of you right now. This snow around us will eventually melt. Rain will come, and those things mixed together, depending on the year, like 2019, can have a direct impact on how it's going to go. Again, this year, I'm not saying that's happening, but on an annual basis, we want to repeat, get out there, because people buy houses. Their systems change every year, so we want to make sure that people become educated as their circumstances change. Now, if you're looking for more specific information about any of these details, again, on the insurance side, I recommend you reach out to your insurance agent. And if you can't get an insurance agent that will give you more information on flood insurance, you can reach out to us. We can guide you to where to search for more insurance agents based on the FEMA side. But if you want more floodplain information from the city, we have a city website, siouxfalls.org/floodplain, that has all of our details on there about what we regulate to, where we regulate, and those kind of standards. But you can also email us at floodplain@siouxfalls.org, or you can give me a call at 605-367-8603 to ask any questions, specifically with specific properties. That's usually where it helps out the most for people, because they just generally don't want to know the general regulations, but to my house, what can we do? What am I worried about? What should I be worried about? And so we help give them all those details. There's a lot of information out there. I could talk for hours on that. I won't, but we just want to let people know they can reach out and ask those questions. We're happy to talk on an individual basis at any time. Now, the last thing we want to really just talk about here is the education piece. This is part of that we do, and we do more than this to help stay in good standing and improve our standing with FEMA through their community rating system, CRS program, which we participate in, and through our participation, we get our residents a 10% discount on their flood insurance right now. We are always looking to improve that and try to increase that to a higher percentage as we go, and we'll keep on working on that. But one thing to note, that's why we do this education, is help people know and also help get us more credits so that we can also help people financially with that insurance cost. The last thing I just want to touch on that's related but not directly is, again, the goal of this kind of media briefing this time of year especially is to just kind of make people aware in a timely manner. And one of the things that's really associated with this, but not directly, is that we need to make sure that homeowners, residents are also just kind of watchful of what's going on in their neighborhood for waters. So are your storm drains clear? Can you help clear those in your neighborhood? Are your drains from your roof or wherever water is draining out, can that get away from your house? And is the foundation of your house clear of snow so that water won't build up and flood the house as it melts or rains in those events? So just another thing to think about. With that, that's all I have for you today. I can take any questions you may have on that excellent information. Oh, yes, Albert Schmidt, Albert Schmidt, Schmid, D as in David, T as in Tom. Title, Urban Planner. I went a little fast, didn't I? I'm sorry. My direct line, 605-367-8603. Yeah, that specific project of raising the levies, that one's completed. They revalidated that in 2017, and we brought over 1,200 properties back out of the floodplain. Yeah. So, yeah. So the question is the levy rate, the levy changes that we did, how did that impact people's costs? The cost associated with typically on flood insurance is one of two things. It's based on your risk. So having a levy system will reduce your risk, which will reduce the cost. But also, more importantly for most people, is that with the federally backed mortgages, they're required to require flood insurance when it's in a floodplain. And so most mortgages are federally backed, so that's usually when it kicks in. People say, oh, I have to get flood insurance. Again, you always have the opportunity to, but that requirement's usually what kicks people over to us. And that removal based on the levy system generally is going to remove the risk of that. But I will tell you, just in a cautious statement that I tell everybody, is that the banks have the full authority to require or not require flood insurance. It's not up to the city of Sioux Falls. We can just tell you if we would require it based on our building standards and things like that. And the bank has the right to require it at any stage. Typically, and this is way more detailed than you wanted to go, but typically if they want to remove themselves out and the bank says, we're not sure, because the bank will get fined if they're found to give you a relief from flood insurance, but they were supposed to require it. So they'll generally, in my mind, go on the side of caution, and they're going to require it, unless they get a letter from FEMA saying that your property is reasonably safe. Now, that's a lot of detail. If anybody has questions on that process, we're happy to talk to them on a one-on-one basis and walk them through that a little bit, because hopefully most people haven't gone through that process. So the question is the FEMA-backed flood insurance is a bit more complicated. Is just a clarification question for you. Is that like on how to qualify for it or how to obtain it, or so the whole process? Oh, so the question is what's the best way to obtain FEMA flood insurance, really? We always recommend from the training I received from FEMA to utilize your insurance agent to get that insurance, because they can all go through that same. They might not be well versed in it, but they should know where to go to get it. And if they don't know how to do it and they say they can't get it, there is a FEMA website to search for an agent in the area that can get you that flood insurance. Sure. So the question is, after the levee improvements, what areas of town are still impacted by floods the most? I would tell you that, some of the areas that we have active programs in, especially for property buyouts, are probably the ones that are the most likely. But each flood event is unique, like a snowflake and a fingerprint. It will affect different properties differently. But like our Tomar Park neighborhood is still a high priority for us to help work through and get properties removed out there more likely. We have other areas further north, like north of 26th Street, that might be a little more lower land areas that are likely to flood during an event if they see that 1% annual chance of flood. Other than that, the biggest thing that we can see for floods are kind of the areas that we don't have any protections on. We're kind of at the whim of nature. So our Skunk Creek area is a pretty high one for us. I don't see a lot of properties that are affected, but that basin is more affected by others based on what we have in place and we don't. Sorry? Yeah. Sure. Good question. So the question is, the buyout for the Tomar Park neighborhood, is it still happening? Yes, we still send out annual letters for interested parties. It's a voluntary program. Currently, we've acquired about a third of the properties from the original amount in 2019. We're still open in there. The problem is that it's a voluntary program, so we're not trying to force anybody out. We're trying to just be that option for them to get out of that situation if they don't want to be down there. Good question. So the question is, who's eligible in that area? And we have a geographical boundary restriction rather than a building type restriction. So it's not only single families that are available, but we are only buying properties in that Tomar Park neighborhood that are north of Lada, on the north side of Lada and north of there to the river, or from Phillips to the west to Minnesota. So if you can kind of picture that area between Minnesota and Phillips and Tomar and the river, or Lada, sorry, and the river, excuse me. So there's no apartments in that area, so technically I don't have one to buy. Any other questions I can take?